it would be amazing to just tell a rah story about God, but I know that there's probably, for every high, there's probably a low. And so I just wonder if you could kind of bring us into some of those moments where it's just like, are we on the right path? Are we doing the right thing? Like some of those, maybe not dark moments, but those moments where it's less clear. Maybe tell us a story. It's just like, what has that looked like for you guys in this multiple decades of following Jesus, and one yes leading to another?
Yeah, I might tee this up for Sarah a little bit and give some context. Since we started the coffee house, just the one in Shasta Lake, so we had that one open for 10 years before we launched a second and a third. Our second coffee house, we ended up closing, but in the first 10 years, it was really a financial struggle, a lot of work, a lot of effort, and right around, I think it was 2018. So we started in 2013, and by 2018, we lost our first team all at once. A lot of stuff just happened. A lot that we don't know. A lot of it's cutting our teeth as new leaders, and that hit us really hard. And then we had the car fire in our area. And then we had a couple of other big snowstorms the following winters that just destroyed property and trees and stuff all over our area. And so it just felt like, these natural disasters, these relational disasters, and somehow we stayed resilient in those years. We rebuilt our team, rebuilt community. The Lord was in it, and we were for it, and we kept running. And then COVID came. And as a food hospitality business during COVID, oh my gosh, the word pivot became the 4-letter word in our, like a 4-letter word in our lives. Yeah.
Everybody was sitting at home in their pajamas, and we're like checking the news every 5 minutes. Like it was rough. It was rough.
Yeah.
So it was that, like, we had been feeling the pain of what we had said yes to for a couple of years before COVID. And so we came into COVID pretty thin. And it stretched us even more. And, so we say nonprofit coffee houses, we don't own this stuff. It belongs to the Lord. It's very open-handed. We've fundraised for all of it. So it's just like, we're just moving forward, trying to stay surrendered to the Lord. And something happened, I think, kind of at quote unquote, the end of COVID. I don't, whenever that was for people is kind of shifty. But like the end of 21, the beginning of 22, where, I was the end of 22, I was done. I'm like, I've put it all out there over and over. I've had to say, I'm saying goodbye now to the second round of friends that have become deep heart friends that I thought were going to run with us for a long time. That first team that we lost in 2018, and then people rose up, and then we're leaving again after, 21, 22. And I was just like, I don't have it. And I started making plans for what am I going to do next? And thinking, I'm ruined for following Jesus. I will always follow him. But as far as running coffee houses, trying to run a business in a really poor community and trying to be good news to my neighbors in such a way that everything is subject to a Google or Yelp review, that I do in my life. Yes. It's so vulnerable, and I love people deeply. Yeah. And so like having it basically feel like my heart is out there ready to be sliced open every second of the day, whether it be in person or online. And then losing the people that are running with us, because our culture here, the church culture here, is pretty transient. So the people who would come with us, run alongside of us, they tend to only be here for a few years. And so I'm making plans at the end of 22 of like, okay, I would love to be a coach. Like I could do this. I'm thinking building a business plan, talking to friends who are doing similar things, and, still be very kingdom focused. And like Stu, he can get a job drafting or doing something that makes some money, because we could actually use some money right now. And, once my practice is up and going and I'm making a lot of money, he can figure something out that makes his heart come alive. And there was one day he was going to visit a friend who's an architect. And he's like, if he offers me a job, I might take it. And I'm like praying, Lord, please let him take this job. Like, let him go and be there and let him take this job. Like, I'm so done. And he wasn't there, and Stu didn't get offered the job for the 5th time, and, came home. And I think, man, it was just kind of the last few months of that year that we were praying, really, really had the coffee houses on the altar. I mean, like I said, they're always been on the altar, but this was a whole new level. And
you actually kind of wanted them to be there.
Oh yeah. I'm like, Lord, can you please just, burn these up? Like, take it away. Yeah. and we're just, seeking inviting friends to pray with us, and diligently just praying, seeking the Lord. And our rhythm of life is we wake up in the mornings, we make coffee, we sit in our chairs, and we don't talk to each other. We listen to the Lord, and we pray, and we read the Bible, and then we, debrief and kind of start our day that way. And there was one Thursday morning that we woke up and looked at each other, and Stu's like, I think I'm still in it. And I'm like, yeah, I think so. Like, when I'm asking the Lord, it's still the last thing he said was do this, run Heritage. And that hasn't changed as much as we wanted it to. And it was literally that day after that. I know the days of the week because anyhow, it was Friday morning that our friend, pastor friend, called and said, hey, what do you guys think about taking over the coffee house that's in the front of our church? And it was just like, whoa, okay. So huge shift. Had he called the day before, the answer would have been no. And not sure why we said yes, because it's really hard, but everything we do is hard, and it's still good.
I was going to say, one of the things that we resolved to in that Thursday morning conversation of saying we're still in was we need partnerships. I think we were feeling the weight of doing what we're doing, which is unique in the predominant model church. What we do stands apart. We operate in our own lane, and it's not we operate because we think we're better. We just operate because it's an area that the predominant model church doesn't operate in. It's unique, it's creative, it's different. And we realized that we had been doing that for a long time. And one of the reasons we were exhausted was we just didn't have the partnerships that would support what we do. And the Lord, I think in that moment, really made it clear we needed partnerships, and we wanted that. That's what we hungered for. So that phone call the next day was like, hey, what do you think about taking over a coffee shop and partnering with us in ministry? And we're like, that I can say yes to that. I can get on board with that.
Yes. So it was an answer to prayer masquerading as more work to do. Mm-hmm. In a way, to be comical. Well, I love this. I love you kind of just got in there naturally, because the whole time I'm hearing this, I'm thinking two things. One is there's no way that you could manage all of the things that you're managing in your own strength.
Oh, no way.
And I think for myself, for probably every listener listening to this, is it sounds overwhelming. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like there's just a lot. And I think we all have some version of a horror story from those years of shutdown and lockdown. And as a small community-based business, you can imagine the despair almost that can settle into a place like that when your heart and everything that you're doing, it's almost dictated from others what you're able to do. And I can imagine how hard and heavy those times were, and how needed, Sarah, where you led us in this discipline that you guys have. And I just wonder if you could share with us a little bit what that kind of morning discipline looks like for you guys, as far as being in prayer, in the Word. Is that something that you guys have done for a long time? Like, what does it look like, and what were you hearing outside of that during those long days? Because you remember the Thursday morning, but what about the Tuesday before that and the years of craziness? Like, how important has that time been for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, shout out to the Randalls. Bill was like, if you think that you're going to get your relationship with God is going to improve when you step into full-time ministry, you're wrong. Like you have to do it now, and it doesn't get easier. It gets harder when you're in full-time ministry, especially if you're like in a teaching pastor role, which Stu was doing for a while. So I think just leaning on wisdom from our friends of going, okay, we really want our relationship with the Lord to be the foundation of what we do. We know that we can't do anything apart from him. And so if we're going to do the work that he's called us to, we have to stay connected to him. And just started to build in, like, what is that going to look like for our lives? We tried a bunch of different things, like, before going to bed, just that wasn't a good rhythm for us. Even when we first launched the coffee houses, we opened at 6 a.m. and I was the opener for a long time. And so I was getting up at 5 so I could do my makeup and be pretty, and getting up at 4:30 to hang out with the Lord. Just that wasn't going to happen. But over the years, it has, settled into this beautiful rhythm where 90% of our mornings, we wake up. I use some kind of app to help do a Bible through the year, reading track. We love Lectio 365, and we'll just, reflect on like our I will statements from house church, and just whatever it is, in the word and listening to the Lord. And then again, most mornings we have an opportunity to kind of debrief what we're hearing from the Lord with one another. And that can always be really exciting. We often I think about having a microphone there because I think it could be a good podcast. But would we actually do that? I don't think so. It's pretty sacred time. But it does. It definitely feels
thousands of people.
Yeah. But it's these not always, but can be these really powerful moments that the Lord shows up as he's like saying things to each of us. But yeah, I grew up here in the North State, in the woods on 85 acres in the middle of nowhere. And the Lord speaks to me primarily through nature. And so I try when I'm in the car, I'm just like keeping my eyes up. So on that Tuesday or, the Sunday afternoon, I'm looking at the sky, I'm looking at the birds, I'm looking at the trees, and just like asking the Lord to speak to me through creation. And he does. And just really trying to listen and to keep the outside things of life a little more quiet. And not get too overwhelmed with all the noise that life has to offer, but really try and be in a posture of listening.
Well, beautiful rhythm that totally combats the world's noise. I mean, that is poetic almost. And so I love that you guys have kind of settled into this 90% effective, 90% happens rhythm of just seeing God show up and being grateful for everything from the birds singing to the tall trees of Northern California, and, the smile that you see on a stranger's face, and aware of God winking at you from all of these different ways. And I think that's a really beautiful picture. I think that honestly, we all can learn from, as far as the expectations of just spending time with God and having that be just a rhythm that we kind of pour attention into. And it's not a performance-based thing. It's not you're checking the box every day, but it's just things go better when I start my day spending time with Jesus and my husband. And it's so good. In fact, I actually want to involve others because it's so amazing, right? Which is like the podcast idea. Like, other people need to know how great this is. Yeah. So what a fantastic stage to let everybody know that this works. So I'm grateful that you're able to share that.